Niger remains on the edge. The country, which is in the midst of a coup, may be staring at a possible military intervention by a coalition of its neighboring nations, after the coup leaders rejected the demand of the Economic Community of West African States to reinstate Niger's ousted president. The deadline set by the defense chiefs of ECOWAS ended on Sunday. And with that, Niger closed its airspace to all flights until further notice, citing the threat of a potential military intervention. What happens next? To discuss this, we have with us Mark Bichachi, who is a communication and political strategist. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So my first question to you, the deadline issued by the ECOWAS has expired. The possible scenarios, what do you think lies ahead? How likely is a military intervention?
Well, the deadline passed because it was set by the heads of states of ECOWAS. However, when the military generals met, they had a discussion and a military option was ranked least in the priorities of what would happen to Niger in case the deadline passed. This is simply because the tactical capacity needed to attack Niger at this time, especially seeing that it has the support of the Burkinabe and the Malians, is very difficult for ECOWAS to do, not to mention that they would actually need to put actual troops on the ground. Secondly is the fact that the diplomatic option has not yet been closed, but that the people on the streets of Niger are simply saying that they stand by the military coup, and many of them seem to be unhappy with President Bazoum, who the military ousted.
Right. Now, that being said, the Niger airspace has been closed off as well. What can you tell us of its implications?
Well, the implications of closing off the airspace is twofold. Number one is to ensure that its airport is not used for any kind of military activity. But more importantly, closing off the airspace means that they are able to identify any jets or bombers that would be coming from the ECOWAS side. So this is also a strategy for them to be able to notify, to know quickly whether they are being attacked from the air, and therefore be able to defend themselves either by scrambling their own aircraft or being able to use surface-to-air rockets to protect their integrity. So this is a stance of Niger simply stating that they are preparing themselves for any kind of military intervention from ECOWAS.
Right. Now, there are many who gathered in the capital in support of the coup leaders as well. What are the factors that have led to this prominent support for the coup leaders in Niger?
Well, the prominent support for the coup leaders in Niger is that President Bazoum came in with many promises of changing the country and being able to ensure that the country developed. However, many of his promises have not been kept, and many people in the country feel like the President Bazoum is a disappointment. They do not believe in his leadership, and therefore the military coup that was carried out has the support of many people in Niger. Remember that they even have gone as far as banning the French flag for the French, insisting that the Bazoum must come back into office. So this is an issue where many people in the country feel like Bazoum was a disappointment in the years that he was in office, and therefore they support the military coup simply because, as one of them said, they would have marched on the presidential palace if they had the ability to do so. And they're happy that the presidential guard, part of the military, took on this coup on their behalf.
Right, sir. Now, multiple nations are also pulling out troops from the country as well, save for a few Italian troops that were deployed there to just ensure counterinsurgency and military training continues. What can you tell us about this?
Well, what has been going on for a long time, and it's not just in Niger, but in many nations across the Sahel, there has been a coalition of forces fighting ISIS and fighting various military Muslim extremists in the area, and trying to make sure that they are destroyed. Now, with the entrance of the coup, many of these armies have been withdrawn, as have been many foreign staff in their various embassies, just having the feeling that now the country of Niger is not safe. Now, this, of course, is causing jitters about the expansion of the Islamic terrorism, the Islamic fighters being able to attack not only in Niger, but also in neighboring countries and destabilizing the whole region as a whole. So there is a question about whether this particular coup will cause more instability and more insurgents being able to strike at the centers of power in various countries across the Sahel, not just Niger itself.
Right. Now, sir, the junta has refused to back down as well. What do you reckon are their broader objectives here, and what sort of implications will this have for the Sahel region?
Well, one of the things is that the military junta is staying put because it does not believe that ECOWAS will be able to mount the military campaign as fast as they think they can. And two, they are staying in place because they think they have the support of Burkina Faso, the Burkinabe, as well as the Malian juntas there. Chad itself has ruled out any military intervention. So they've got a number of countries that are on their side. And then to add to that, the military junta does indeed feel like it has the support of the broader people in Niger. So with the support of the people, the inability of ECOWAS really to fashion a force that fast. And then, of course, there is also the question of Russia, where Russia has been known to spread its influence in the region through its Wagner group. And if Niger can access the support of the Wagner group, then they would feel more confident knowing that being attacked is highly unlikely.
Right. Now, what can you tell us of Niger's position on the global stage and why it's key to Western powers, and what sort of a role do you see the international community playing here?
Well, Niger is important in the sense that it has a lot of natural resources, prime of which is the radioactive substance that is used in the manufacture of weapons, but also the uranium that's used in nuclear power plants, and this has been a key export to Europe, most importantly to France. So its mineral wealth is what makes it central to the Western powers, who feel that these resources could either end up in the hands of the Chinese or even worse, the Russians, should the junta fall out with the West. And this is why it is of key interest in terms of its own economic and political power. Niger is not considered a power broker, but in terms of its natural resources, it is very important to the West.
Right. And so just for more clarity here, what sort of a response can we expect from the ECOWAS going forward?
Well, what will happen is ECOWAS will strengthen its diplomatic foray into the Niger. They will try and create dialogue and create conversations between the junta and the ousted president, hoping for a compromise. That is the most likely scenario. If that fails, and if they're able to support both, to get the financial and military support from the French and the West, then maybe we can see a military intervention. They will need to have a lot of support, bearing in mind that there are many people in Niger that support the military junta in taking over. So it's going to be difficult for them to win the minds of the people in Niger to be able to support a military intervention by ECOWAS. So there needs to be a lot of financial and military support to bolster the ECOWAS military option. But for now, it will be heightened diplomatic activity, and most likely they may settle down for a compromise between the army and the ousted president.
All right. Mr. Mark Bichachi, thank you so much for joining us on WION with your insights on this.
Most welcome.